the Kingdom News portion of Kingdom News. I am your host, Gwen Goolsby Tillery, coming to you with the latest of what's going on in the kingdom. First, let me start with some exciting news that pertains to me. So, I was able to recently release a new book entitled Through the Fire: Stories of Strength, Courage, and Resilience. And so this is an anthology of stories of people who have gone through some incredible situations, but come out on the other side better, healed, and whole. They have literally gone through the fire. I got the concept for this book a while ago, and I was kind of waiting for all the people to come to bring it together. I truly believe that we are able to be an encouragement and an inspiration to others when we transparently share our stories, when we are able to be honest and really candid about the things that we've gone through, how it's impacted us, but how we were able to trust God to take us through the process. And so this story has a total of 14 authors, 13 chapters that range from stuff around self esteem, abuse, mental health issues, marriage, uh, grief and loss of loved ones, adoption. When I tell you there's a range of stories in this, there's a range. What I love about it, which is why I believe God handpicked, I say God handpicked each one of these authors, is that the stories are genuine and they are authentic and transparent. These authors, each and every single one of them, not only told their story, but they told it openly and honestly, not holding back anything, giving their truth and their true testimony to what was happening as they went through that particular struggle in their life. So later on in the show, I am going to have the opportunity to interview one of the first contributing authors to the project, Miss Gwendolyn West Sutton. She's going to share her story, and the title of her section, her chapter is Throw the Fish Back. An interesting title, but we'll find out more about that later on, why she gave it that title, and as well as her story and her testimony of coming through the fire. So be on the lookout for that interview, which will be coming up later. And to get your copy, you can visit my website, www.successarise.com, where you can order the paperback cover, or you can get a copy of the hardcover book as well. So I also want to give you a heads up on the fact that KPTV will be celebrating its second anniversary this coming June. The dates, let me give you the exact dates. The dates are June 30th through July 2nd. That will be the dates that we celebrate KPTV's annual celebration, anniversary celebration. It will be virtual again this year. We are really hoping that by next year we are able to do it in person. So this year will be virtual. It will be taking place in two portions. We will have a morning or afternoon portion and then an evening portion. So in the afternoon, we will have speakers that talk about various subjects such as health and wellness, relationship, finances, self development, inspiration, encouragement. And so the afternoon sessions are going to be really more practical tools and tips and information to help us live out our lives in a better way based on biblical principles. The evening portion will contain our speaker, our message for the evening, as well as praise and worship. So I'm excited. I am finishing up the lineup for the guest speakers for the day, as well as the artists. I'm excited. I think it's going to, no, I don't think, I know it is going to be a great 3 days of information, education, inspiration, and transformation based on the Word of God. So I'm really excited about that as well. Also, we are continuing to grow the metaverse platform. So if you're interested in participating in that, go on to KPTV's website and fill out a request form for that, and you will be able to get more information as it relates to that. Also, in the news, we know we have coming up in July the Stella Awards. I have never had the opportunity to participate, hoping to be able to get there soon, but the Stella Awards will be coming up in July as well. And so that's just a little bit of Kingdom news for you. Once again, I am your host, Gwen Goolsby Tillery, and I thank you for tuning in to this week's Kingdom News. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Kingdom News. I am your host, Gwen Goolsby Tillery. I'm excited you joined us this morning. I'm even more excited about the guest that I have on this morning. She is one of the co authors of the new best selling and number one book, Through the Fire, written by myself and some amazing co-authors. And so today I have the pleasure of being able to interview and talk to Miss Gwendolyn West Sutton, who actually has the second chapter in the book. So it's kind of fitting that you are the first one to come on. My chapter is first, followed by hers. And so welcome, Gwen.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon.
So as I said, her name is Gwendolyn West Sutton. Tell us where you're from. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, just a little bit.
I'm in Sicklerville, New Jersey, originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Okay, all right. So God just has this way of connecting people, right, at the right time and in the right moment. And so let me just step back a little bit. I have been wanting to do a collaboration or anthology for some time. I kind of knew what I wanted it to focus on. I truly believe that our stories and our testimonies are not for us, but that they are for others, so that people can know that when they're going through, when they're having an issue, oh, well, if God did it for them, that means he can do it for me. And so I knew I wanted to be a collaboration of powerful stories that could help people to really know that there is a through, and that you're not going to stay in the midst of the fire. And so I knew most of the people that were going to be a part of this for a while. God had really laid on my heart who to connect with. But I met Gwen recently. And as I began to talk to her and hear a little bit about her background and her story, she became one of the final authors for Through the Fire Stories of Strength, Courage, and Resilience. So, just to give you the background. So, Gwen, your chapter is called, give us the title of your chapter.
Throw the fish back in.
Throw the fish back in. Yes. So when you hear that, you're like, well, okay, what is this going to be about? So tell us a little bit about, not even before you even get to the story, how did you come throw the fish back in? What is that about?
Well, as God would have it, from my unfortunate experience with teenage dating violence, I he blessed me with a concept. This happened maybe 30 years later. I never understood why I had that experience until later in life. And he gave me a concept. If life or men and women were a fish, sometimes we must throw the fish back in. And hey, begin fishing again. So if we're not happy with our lives, the state of our lives, if we're not happy with the state of our relationships, we don't have to remain in them. We can throw that fish back in and begin fishing again.
I like it. I love it. You know, you never really fully explained it to me like that before. I like that. So that is the concept of where to throw the fish comes back in. And so now, tell us a little bit about your story and this experience of teenage dating violence. So, how old were you when this started?
So this started when I was 15, and too early, too soon, and I had no dating skills. I should not even been dating at that time. And then all of this is in retrospect. So I came to that conclusion. And so yeah, it occurred from between the age of 15 through early 19.
Okay, so 4 years.
Yes.
Tell us how you got involved with this young man. How does this relationship even begin at the age of 15?
Well, interesting enough, I had a relationship prior to that at the age of 14, too early, too soon. I didn't have any dating skills and shouldn't have even been dating. Um, I believe that, well, at one time I thought that if I had been in structured activities during the summer, then probably wouldn't have, at least that's what I thought at that time, wouldn't have had the experience. Now I know that I was supposed to have that experience for the greater good, because out of that came the concept and the story, which I shared. And so I basically didn't have anything to do pretty much during the summer, just hanging out. And then I was blinded by the cuteness. You know, he approached me and he was cute, and
Hmm.
didn't really pay attention to what he was saying. And there again, I was just blinded by the cuteness.
Okay, so you meet this young man, you look at him, you're like, oh, okay, he's cute. You start dating. Did your parents know that you were dating at this early age?
Um, Kind of, sort of. I mean, we went out. You know, you say, "Well, I'm going out." You know, mom or dad, and that's how it went. But they didn't know all the details of what was going on.
Okay, so they knew you had a boyfriend, but um, that was kind of the extent of it. I guess they didn't. Did they not? They didn't realize how serious it was.
Well, no, well, not initially, and then he started showing up. You know, so they met him, and so yeah. But and so it just kind of like happened. You know, with respect to um, permission to date, that wasn't something that was officially stated or given.
Okay, so you're dating this young man, and did things start off right from the beginning like crazy, or was there like a honeymoon time? Was there like a time where there was peace and there were no issues?
Yes, there was, and like most relationships, they start off where like you said, that honeymoon stage, everything looks good and seemed good and felt good. However, interesting enough, I can't exactly say when it started to go left, but um, yeah, it just seemed like it just started to happen. Interesting enough, he did tell me what he was going to do or what he was capable of doing to me, because he shared with me what he did to another girl that he was dating prior to me, or could have been at the same time.
Right. So this knowledge and revelation that he gave to you, was this right at the beginning of your relationship?
Um, yeah, yeah, but see, because I was blinded by the cuteness, it affected my hearing, my
That did
ability to
not.
hear what he was saying.
It affected more than your hearing. You actually heard what he said. That wasn't the issue. The hearing wasn't the issue. It was the understanding that was the issue. You heard it. You
Hmm.
just didn't understand what that meant. And it's unfortunate because for so many women, we feel that there's something. We are special. Each one of us is special. God has designed us very uniquely, each one of us. So each one of us is special in God's sight. However, we feel that there's this special thing that we have as women sometimes, that if he did it to her, but he won't do it to me because I'm different. You know, I'm cuter, I'm nicer, I'm this, I'm that, and so we find ourselves in situations where we feel like we're going to be the exception because it's about the person that they're dating versus the character of the person itself, or himself, or herself.
Well, interesting enough, I for some strange reason, when I said I didn't hear him, like you said, I heard him, but I'll put it this way, I really didn't hear what he was saying to me. There again, because blinded by the cuteness. However, the other thing is that for some strange reason, and now this is from the through the eyes and through the thinking of a 15-year-old. For some strange reason, I thought that, and this is crazy, that there was something that she may have did for that to happen for him to do what he did. And like I said, we're talking about now. In retrospect, I know that was foolishness, but there again, from the through the eyes and the mind of a 15-year-old, that's what how I perceived it, and
Well,
why
that's
I recognized what was could happen to me.
Well, that's exactly what I was saying. You believe that is something special or unique about you that won't allow that behavior to happen, meaning that there was something that the other person did or didn't do which allowed it to happen.
Hmm.
So that is not just behavior or thinking that is unique to you. That's the situation for a lot of women who end up in these situations where, as you said, you're almost forewarned or foretold, like this is who I am, but there's something that you believe that you're going to be able to do differently, or something was wrong with that other person which triggered this, which the reality is it has nothing to do with you or the other person. It's
Hmm.
the person perpetrating the act of violence that is the issue. It's
Correct.
never you, it's never the previous person. And so that's not something that is just the attitude and the actions of a 15-year-old. There are many adult women who end up in those situations as well.
Yes.
So you don't know exactly when things shifted or changed, but what was the first incident that you can remember in terms of the violence beginning?
Well, one day when we were on our way to what I thought my house was my house after seeing a movie, he decided that he wanted to go to his house instead, but I didn't want to go, and all I said was no. And then that's when he slapped me in my face. So that was the actual first occurrence.
Okay, how long do you remember how, because this is a while ago, do you remember how long you guys had been dating at this point?
In all honesty, I don't. I mean, interesting enough, it's been so long ago. As another year goes by, the memory starts to fade more and more. But I don't. But certainly, I can say this: it was within the first year.
Okay. So this incident happens. What's your initial thoughts when this happens?
Well, interesting enough, it happened when we were. It was out in public, and I heard a man said, "Hey, man, don't be hitting her like that. Take her home and do that." And my thoughts were, "Gee, thanks, Mister." I think, but um, I guess that was the mentality that it was okay to hit the females. But I don't think that that man would have spoke that way if it had been his mother or his sister or his daughter. So my thoughts were, I was in shock. I was in shock.
So, a few months into the relationship, yes, less than a year, this incident occurs. And so, obviously, because you said it was between 15 and 19, so you don't stop the relationship, you continue on with the relationship. Does it become like a constant thing, or was it every now and then? The reason I ask these questions is just for people to get clarity as to how this 15-year-old is in this relationship and manages to stay in this relationship for 4 years and no one ever intervenes or really understands what's going on.
Well, first and foremost, I did not share with my parents what was going on. And so, because um, had I shared with them what I was experiencing, that it would have been shut down a long time ago, because that's what happened eventually when my family learned.
So how did you? So he's physically abusing you, and again, these questions is our stories again are so that others can learn from them, prevent them, be mindful of them. So as a parent listening to this, who may have a young daughter, I'm trying to get an understanding of how this was able to occur for so long, and you keep it a secret. So he slaps you in the first incident. He slaps you in your face.
Mhm.
There are no marks, nothing visible is showing.
I did have a mark, and it was a cut on my face from the length of my eye down to my chin. And so, what happened is, it's interesting how oftentimes when people are abused, the individual protect the abuser. So I was not honest. I didn't share with my parents what had actually happened to me. I made up some story.
Okay, so
And
you go home and you make up a story and tell them, "Oh, this is what happened," and you protect him.
correct.
Okay, so let's fast forward now. So, you're into the relationship. Do you remember the next incident and what occurred?
Um, there was another incident where I mean, there was an incident where I was I don't remember all the incidents in sequential order, because there again, some of them has faded from memory because some of them weren't as bad. I mean, all of it was bad, but what I'm saying is some had things that happened there were just was more traumatic than others.
Right.
And so, but there had been another time when I was on my way to school one day, and he approached me and asked me for $1, and I said I didn't have it. But he knew my parents had given me lunch money, and so as a result, um, he punched me in my face. And as God would have it, one of my neighbors was looking out the window, and she called my mother, and that was like the first time when really my parents became aware of what was going on. There was no denying that.
Right. So, is this when the relationship pretty much ends?
The relationship continued. Interesting enough, when these type of things are happening, oftentimes the abuser apologizes, and then he, for lack of a better word, I mean, I don't want to say fall into mercy, but he acts as if he's sorry and it won't happen again. And he, you know, had, it's a, it's interesting because there again, he had me feeling like I was the only one that loved him. I was the only one that cared for him. So it's just an interesting dynamic that was playing out, not only in my relationship, but oftentimes this happens in the other relationships as well. And so it's never violent. It's never going to happen again. And then forgive and because there again, still I was emotionally involved. I loved him. You know,
So, so your mom finds out from a neighbor. How do you explain this one away, and how is it that you get to remain in this relationship?
well, I wasn't able to explain it away and didn't try to. And how did I remain in a relationship? Because oftentimes people get advice, and oftentimes we know that we should leave. We should not continue the relationship. But there again, because of that emotional connection, people remain in the relationships. And even when your parents tell you not to, and so on and so forth, when you go out the house, basically you're out the house and you're on your own. And so you're from the convincing, and there again, the emotional connection, even though it may not be understandable to people that are not in that type of situation, but it's certainly understandable to people that are, how people continue in the relationship.
All right, so okay, so basically, your mom knows, your dad knows, they know what happened, and they just say to you, don't be around him or don't date him. That was the extent of what they said.
Well, they say a little more than that, but basically, um, I chose to continue.
Okay, so you stay in a relationship, and I mean, it's apparent that someone who stays in this kind of relationship is struggling with some issues around self-esteem, of their own self-esteem. So where were you mentally and emotionally at this point? And how old are you now? About maybe 16, 17?
So I just want to back up a little bit to when I met him, I was vulnerable because there again, I was in a relationship prior to that and was kicked to the curb and I was devastated. And so at the time when I met him, I was in a place where, like you said, low self esteem and just wasn't feeling um, good about myself. And there again, somebody came along and you talk nice and to you, and so on and so forth. And next you know, in the relationship. So when you ask me about where at age 16, oftentimes, and when I think back, the relationships may not be um, you may not be continually dating. There's breakups in between and so on and so forth. So when it seems like it might have been a total of 4 years, it may not in actuality been 4 years because of the breakups in between. But where I was at 16, not really feeling good about myself and just not good in a good space in that relationship that wasn't good for me. Um, but like many of us do, we carry on there again, um, being emotionally attached. And when a person is emotionally attached, it's not so always easy to detach yourself, even when you know you should.
Hmm. Absolutely. I mean, that's why so many people, I can't just say women, because, violence occurs against men and women. It is not
Absolutely.
something we hear about often, that men are abused, but it is a situation where men can end up in abusive relationships as well. So it's not just a one-sided thing. It can go both ways. And it is challenging for the person to leave because the abuser often is very manipulative in their process to breaking down the person's self-esteem and overall well-being. You will often hear things like, no one else will want you, or I'm the only one that loves you. So they play on you. They play on your emotions. They play on your self-esteem, and you find yourself in a place where you feel like this is the best that you can do. Okay, I mean, can you relate or identify with that?
Well, to some degree, but I think that one of the main things that kept me involved was there again, like I was telling you before, that it was like he had me feeling like he needed me and nobody, he didn't have anyone else. And um so that part of me um was susceptible to that foolishness.
Right. So he played the victim.
Um yes, yes.
Okay. So let's move forward. So at what point does this relationship end, and what what was it like the final straw? What was it that finally created a situation where the relationship had to end, and you were able to kind of move on?
Well, the support of my family, because there again, my family, by God's grace and mercy, He placed me with a family that um, was there for me and was not going to allow the abuse. So let me just back up, because throughout the entire relationship, I mean, it wasn't abuse all the time, all the time. You know, there were occurrences. I can't remember all the occurrences, but there was a point where my family basically um, intervened. And in all honesty, I can't give you an exact date and tell you exactly when the relationship ended. It kind of like faded out. Um, we had a child, and it just kind of just faded out, because there again, maybe he might have found somebody else to pursue.
So okay, so the relationship just kind of faded out.
Yes, with the help of my family, because my family, there were some situations where my mother approached him and was very vocal, and not, not only vocal, was physical with him. And so there's another situation with my brother as well. So through that time, there was different occurrences where he had encounters with my family, and yeah, and then I guess he looked for somebody else with that. He didn't have to deal with that. Let me back up. I don't know what he was looking for, but what I'm saying is that at some point he moved on, and so
Okay.
and yeah, and so I can't. It's some things I remember clearly, and some things just because oftentimes with relationships, at some things are not as clear. Oftentimes with relationships, there's not an exact date when it ended, but it just they end. Well, that has been my experience.
Right, right, right. So you fast forwarded, like you fast forwarded way to the end, and so you left a couple of things out in between. So you ended relationship is off and on for approximately 4 years. The abuse is
Mhm.
not constant, but it's enough that it's problematic, and you needed to remove yourself from the situation, but you did not. At some point, there's an incident that occurs, and your family obviously finds out about it, and they begin to intervene. At this point, did you already have a child? Like how, because that's the piece that I'm trying to understand how that all comes together.
So I had the child. I had my child when I was 18, and so in fact during the pregnancy, I remember a lot of time not us not being together. So pretty much during the pregnancy, I was alone. And so, and there again, like relationships often happen, they start and they stop, and they start and they stop. And so, when I say the relationship ended when I was 19, um, I had my child when I was 18, and so my child might have been about a year old or something like that. But there again, there wasn't a whole lot of interaction and with the relationship during that time. So that's why I say it just kind of like faded, faded out. There again, I certainly had enough of that situation, the relationship, and with my family's help, there again, that helped it come to an end. But I just can't. I don't know if I answered your question.
You did somewhat, because again, I'm trying to paint this picture and make it clear to people how you end up in this situation, how you end up staying in this situation. You end up bringing a child out of this relationship, and then the relationship just kind of dissolves. But again, this is for people to understand, like, how can I try to ensure that myself doesn't end up in something like this, or that a child of mine who's 15, 16, 17-year-old doesn't end up in this situation. So in retrospect, what do you think um what do you think your parents or anyone could have done to prevent this relationship, one, from initially occurring, or even for from it continuing for so long?
So, one, with respect to my parents, if they knew better, they would do better. And so, if they, because for me, I felt like I should have been in structured activities. There was just too much free time to do nothing. And so, there again, I learned some things from that experience. So when I had my daughter, I made sure that she was in structured activities because I always thought about my experience as a teenager and what I was inclined to do. And so I used that information to when I was raising her. And so there again, her summers, her days, her weekends, they were filled with activities. Um, when she was old enough to start dating, when she received a phone call, and I answered the phone because back then we didn't have cell phones. And so I answered the phone. And so I asked the person, well, where she know you from? And so if he said that I met at the gallery, something like that, that phone call never got through. So because it's my belief, just because they ask for the digits, don't mean you should give it to them.
Mhm.
And so I use my experiences to help my daughter. And so I would want to share with other people that um, we need to talk to our girls early on. And this message of the concept of throw the fish back in was a message that was given to me from God. So one, I think that I would have had that experience anyway, because for me, I had the experience for the greater good. Because now I'm talking about it. I'm talking about the issue of teenage dating violence, and it's my desire to share with other people to have a discussion, start a discussion, a conversation about it, because there are so many people, so many millions of teenagers that are experiencing it, and it's not common. It wasn't common back. I mean, it is common. It was common back then too, because I knew other people that had situations similar to mine. And so, so I would just encourage the parents to talk to their children, because boys are being abused as well, and it's even more difficult for them to go to their parents or anybody to tell that what is going on with them, because they're a boy and they may be construed and misconstrued as, oh, you let a girl hit you, and so we need to talk to our children. We need to make sure that have them in structured activities, know the people that they're dating, and know the parents, know the family, know something about the individuals, and then also, as God would have it, I have some rules for engagement in the dating game. And I call it the dating game because I play on the television show, the dating game, years ago. But we need to have some rules for engagement, and for me, prevention is the intention. Because when I was dating, you know, I let him choose me. Whereas now it's my perception that no, we need to choose who we date. And I can go on, but I'll stop here.
Mhm. So, what are what do you feel are the warning signs that parents can look out for? Because as you described it, when you're in that situation, you're going to do whatever you can to protect the abuser, because even though you probably know the relationship should end and needs to end, you stay in it. And so you don't want it to end, but and you cover it up. But what are some of the signs that parents can look for, that might be an indication that their child is in an abusive relationship?
Well, one, if they have bruises or scars that on them that are not when their parents inquire about it, when things don't make sense, they need to launch an investigation, and that means to ask more questions. And so it's very important that um, we see that the relationship takes place more kind of, I'm gonna say, in front of the parents, because there again, I went out, and so the people need to come in. I'm talking about the dating, the person that the individual that they're dating needs to come in, and the parents need to be able to examine him, ask them questions, have a conversation with them, because there again, they may be able to pick up on some of the things from the things that he's saying that the child had not.
So it sounds basically, bottom line is you need to have more interaction, more involvement as it relates to the dating process with your children.
Yes, in fact, we need to talk to our children about dating, because oftentimes the whole dating starts before there's even a conversation about dating. Parents look
Right.
up and their child has a girlfriend or boyfriend. Like, well, when did that happen?
Do you think that a conversation would have made a difference in your situation?
Um, what was going on with me? When you said that a conversation, you mean when it being proactive or
Yeah, like if
after the
your
fact?
parents had said, hey Gwen, you're beautiful, you're wonderful, you're valuable. Don't let anyone abuse you. Do you think that would have made a difference in your decision making?
I mean, it may have, but there again, my I felt valued, but
Mm.
I felt loved. So it wasn't that, it was more of the experience that I had previously with the other boyfriend who kicked me to the curb, who I loved. And so when I met this other person, you know, I was vulnerable. I wasn't in a place, a good space. I was still hurt from the previous relationship.
Makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. So out of this, throw the fish back in, you gave birth to a nonprofit organization, correct?
Yes.
So tell us about that.
So the nonprofit actually came after the conference, the Mothers and Daughters Day conference. And so out of that experience of teenage dating violence was born, God had given me a message. And that message was throw the fish back in, a concept and a message. And so I went to a former state senator in Pennsylvania and told her I had a message that could benefit her constituents. And if She didn't know how we could work together. I did. And so God just gave me the thought about a Mother's and Daughters Day, Mother's and Daughters Day. And so she and I, we met, we talked. She was very receptive, and so she and I worked together, and we had the first Mothers and Daughters Day. And so what I thought was going to be a one-time occurrence, it actually we worked together for 3 years, and basically that was a day where the event was such that mothers and daughters and sisters and surrogates and mentors and mentees, female acquaintances will come together to commit to supporting each other through their life journeys and repair relationships, their relationships. And so then I wanted to have a whole lot of input about the kind of food that we eat. So at the conference, I mean at the Mothers and Daughters Day event, and so the senator, she just kind of said to me that I need to start a nonprofit. And what that meant is that if you want to have input in how the on all the details of the conference and where, because they cost money, so then you certainly need to have some input financially. And but so the conference, so the nonprofit basically was formed to to be able to raise funds for the Mothers and Daughters Day conference. Because after we were no longer working with the senator, um, we continue with the conference. We continue with the event, and we changed it from the Mothers and Daughters Day to the Mothers and Daughters Day conference. And so that has, and so this year we'll be celebrating our 12th year. This Saturday, October the 29th. Yes, we're going to have our 12th Mothers and Daughters Day conference.
Okay. So what kind of things do you do at the conference? Are you have specific speakers, specific topics, I guess, that you cover?
So it's a teenage and domestic violence awareness event, although we talk about other issues as well. And so we have a continental breakfast. We have a photo, well, not I won't say photo shoot, but the mothers and daughters or whoever they attend with um, get an on-the-spot picture. There's giveaways, there's speakers, there's breakout sessions, entertainment, and um, and more.
Okay. And you gave us the date. So how is it that people can reach you to either be a part of it or to attend?
So they can call the Community Empowerment Group. The telephone number is 215-736-8801.
Okay. Are you on social media under your name or under the organization's name?
So we do have a Facebook page under my name, but it's the Community Empowerment Group. And of course, my name is associated with that page.
Okay. And is it give them the name exactly how they would find you on Facebook?
They can find me under Gwendolyn West Sutton and Community Empowerment Group.
Okay. And that's on Facebook. And you will be having a website coming up soon as well.
Yes.
Okay. Any last tips, comments that you want to leave?
So I would like to leave people with this. First, parents, pay attention to what's going on with your children. They need you. They may be suffering in silence. Their teenage dating violence is not uncommon. There are millions of teenagers that are experiencing this right now. And so I want everyone to be encouraged and know that no matter what position they are in, if they're not happy with their life, the state of their life, whether they're working or not working, or if they're not happy with their relationships, that's not working, then you don't have to remain in it. Sometimes, if life and men were a fish, sometimes we must throw the fish back in.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being one of the contributing authors to Through the Fire. I hope that your story and your transparency and your knowledge will be able to be of use to someone who is either in this situation. And again, this happened to her as a teenager, but we know that this is a situation that occurs for men and women of all ages and at all stages of their lives. And so just know that you can escape, you can get out of it. There are resources out there, there are people out there that can help you, that can support you. But just know that you are worthy, that you are valuable, and that you don't have to stay in those situations. So, once again, I thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Kingdom News. I thank my guest, Miss Gwendolyn West Sutton, for coming on. And as always, I say thank you and God bless.
God bless. Thank you.
I have a question for you. Are you tired of being stuck? Are you tired of year after year making goals and plans to accomplish something and it just doesn't seem to happen? Are you tired of not being supported in your dreams and your goals and your vision? Well, I have an opportunity for you. I want you to consider becoming a member of Success Arise Academy. This is a membership that is designed with you in mind. It provides education, inspiration, and transformation for you to be able to achieve those goals and become everything it is that God has created you to be. This is a membership program designed for women to be able to also come together and encourage and support one another. So if this sounds like something that you're looking to be a part of, I want you to visit www.successarise.com because it is time for you to move from stuck to unstoppable. Most gracious and heavenly Father, I thank you for being the amazing God that you are, for being a loving God, for being a caring God, Lord, for being a God that created me with a plan and with a purpose. I know, Lord, that you have ordered my steps, and I will walk by faith. I will live boldly in grace because you favor me. I will not allow fear, doubt, distractions, or distractors to stop me because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I am more than a conqueror, and I already have the victory. God, you have not given me a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So I will operate in faith, power, and love. This is my season to reap all that I have sown, and I am open and ready to receive all that you have for me. I will not allow stumbling blocks or setbacks to take me off course. I will be relentless in pursuing my dreams, goals, and purpose. I will not give up or give in. I will give birth to my purpose, push past the pain, and I will fulfill my God-given purpose. I will succeed because success is in my DNA.